Yeah, we don't want to do anything to scare your children.
Welcome to Straight Up with Kevin Carter, a retired veteran and decorated police officer with over 17 years' experience. Tackling current events, local, state, and federal. Covering today's topics and events with special guests. And now, here's your host, Kevin Carter.
All right, we're going to dive right into it today. We have a house full of special guests here today, and instead of me trying to introduce everybody, I think what I'll do is just start on my right. We'll allow ladies to go first. Let everybody know who's in the house today.
Well, I guess I'm Amanda LEsperance.
All right, Amanda, and tell the folks what you do for the city of Cooper.
Oh, I sit on city council. I am also the Delta County Precinct Chair for Precinct 4 for the Republican Party.
Okay.
That's pretty much the gist.
Hello, I'm Shelley Luther. I'm running for Texas House District 62.
We are very happy to have you here. Thank you for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's fun.
Absolutely.
Yes, and I'm Darren Braddy, mayor here in the great city of Cooper.
Man, I don't even have a title. I'm just Kevin. So well, I want to say thank you to all of y'all for being here. This is great because this is exactly why I started doing this podcast, was to be informative to the people of Cooper. And not only Cooper, this thing goes worldwide. So, there's going to be some info that goes out today that not just people here is going to benefit from it. So, but the main crux of it is to talk to Miss Luther and learn more about her. As we chatted briefly before the podcast, and let me get a little housekeeping rules out of the way. I don't edit anything. What you're about to record is going to go out. Okay. If any profanity hits the airways, I apologize in advance. We do try to keep it clean, but every now and then we get heated and something will slip. So if it happens, I apologize. And if we all do it, don't feel bad. So I probably will do it first. But anyway, Miss Luther being the...
Oh, please call me Shelley, because you're making me feel like when I was a teacher. So
well, you can blame Ralph Carter for that, because I'd have got thumped upside the head for not saying that. But anyway, Shelley, so tell us a little bit about yourself.
My dad's a 26-year Marine veteran. I've lived in lots of different states, even before I was in second grade.
So you're a military brat.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. My poor dad had, my parents had 3 girls, and so we were treated like boys. We're pretty tough. We ended up in Orange County, Southern California, lived on the base for a little bit. And
I'm sorry.
It was actually, my parents are staunch conservatives, and they've been several generation Texans. So it's almost like we brought a little Texas to California, and then I got a softball scholarship to UT Arlington.
Oh, wow.
Came back to Texas in 1993 and haven't left because this is home.
All right.
I taught school for 13 years, got out of that because I wasn't really happy with the public education system and the way that it was going.
Right.
So I decided to go to makeup school. I looked online on Craigslist, and I had some money saved up, and I bought a hair salon, a beauty salon, for $25,000 off Craigslist, and fixed it up all myself.
Right.
And 3 years later, COVID lockdowns, and I'm in jail. So that's the fast forward story.
I remember seeing your face on the news and just thought how crazy that was that our government. And I've done some research into how our governor got the control that he did to do what he did, but the fact that, and correct me if I'm wrong, because if that's the thing I love about this podcast, is that we can be open, and if I make a mistake, please point it out, because if you do, I'm going to point it out too. So, but our legislature, those are 30-day orders, and they could have stepped in at any time and said, okay, enough is enough. Am I correct?
They could. They should have called for a special session and not had one person declaring what was going on, especially in this type of situation where everything was pretty much new. It hadn't happened before, and we needed a lot more minds put together, not just one person deciding.
Yes. Well, we that's how America got started. We got tired of that, that one person control thing. I think I was unable to make Saturday night's gathering. Unfortunately, I had company in town.
You missed it. It was pretty heated. Not on my part this time, though.
Well,
We went Jerry Springer style.
I watched a few of the snippets that were put out, and one of the things that just really caught me off guard, which a hair salon was deemed non-essential, but the dog groomer in your strip center, I guess.
Oh, no, it was next door.
Next door was deemed essential.
Yes. So the day I was thrown in jail.
So who the hell makes these rules?
That's your
See, I told you
governor,
that was
sir.
going to happen.
No, it's good. That was not so bad. So, the governor, and he had a quote unquote strike force team that we learned later that he did not listen to.
Clearly.
Exactly. So the day I was thrown in jail, you could get your dog groomed. You can go to Lowe's, Home Depot, Walmart, all the big box stores. You could buy CBD oil.
Because they're exempt from COVID there.
I guess.
That's
yeah.
a COVID-free zone.
Exactly.
I told you CBD was good.
Yes, it is. But
Wow.
exactly. And so, liquor to go. You could get a drive-through lap dance that day I was arrested. That was essential. There were several things. You think I'm kidding. I wish I was. When I have a text message that I sent to Greg Abbott's team, his communications director, while we were sitting in the courthouse. And I said, so today you can get a drive-through lap dance, but you can't get your hair cut. Am I going to jail today or what? And they didn't answer, and I went to jail that day.
And let me tell me then, because I think I know the answer to this from my own research. Who bailed you out of jail?
There was no bail.
So who got you out of jail, though?
The Texas Supreme Court.
Yes.
The Texas Supreme Court. So my attorney, Warren Norrid, sent something through the court system called a writ of habeas corpus.
Correct, which is ever been held against your will.
Yes.
Or without charges, basically.
And that's something that hasn't been used in a long. I mean,
It
it's
has
not used very often.
It's been on the books for many, many years. I know that from being in law enforcement.
Yes,
so.
and it was just genius for him to even think
Yes.
of that. And they got me out temporarily, just to figure out what to do because they knew the people were mad, and they just didn't know what to do. And they ended up holding on to it for a long time. It's only been about 6 months now that they dismissed the case, not because it was wrong for what happened. It was over a technicality of how the judge wrote the, I forgot contempt of court charge.
Those pesky details.
Mm-hmm. So
And in the contempt in court was something that I found. It's not funny because it actually happened to a human being, and I'm not going to lie, it pissed me off because the fact that you wouldn't apologize.
I got held into contempt of court, and and honestly, a lot of people don't know this. The executive order that Greg Abbott wrote said that anybody that goes against his mandate could be thrown in jail for 180 days and $1,000 per day that they do it.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, the penal code is set by the legislature, not the governor.
The governor doesn't understand there are 3 branches of government.
Right.
Okay. So anyway, the judge says you could go to jail for 180 days if you do not apologize. And as soon as he said apologize, my husband's like, oh man, she's going to jail.
One has nothing to do with the other, though.
Right.
In my opinion. And I've been in law enforcement a long time, so I have a passion for that. And I would just say there's a lot of laws on the books I don't agree with. And I know there's going to be people out there that say, well, what makes you so special that you can stand up against this when I don't agree with the speed limit out there, but I don't go to jail over that where I could, but what makes that different?
I just think that we have these, I don't know, I just have this intuition inside me. Did I know the Constitution back and forth? No, but I knew that the government wasn't helping us the way they said they would. I had hairstylists contacting me saying they didn't know how they were going to eat or what they were going to do.
Right.
And I was not going to be the barrier between them and feeding their kids. So I just opened, and it made sense to me because almost every other big box store was wide open, and they could not explain to me why we were closed. I asked them because his strike force team called me before I went to jail, pretending that they were trying to help me. And I said, well, tell me why we're closed, and we'll work out a solution. And he said, that's classified.
I think Ronald Reagan's famous words were words nobody ever wants to hear. I'm from the government. I'm here to help you. Those are
That's
words
exactly it.
wants to
But when I
hear.
asked him, I'm like, so tell me why we're closed. He said, that's classified. And I said, you and I are done talking, sir. I understand completely what's happening here.
So from the research I did, Dan Patrick played some type of a role, and I didn't understand exactly what it was in you getting out of jail along with the habeas corpus and your attorney. So do you know what that role was, or can you elaborate on that?
I do. He actually donated $7,000 to my GoFundMe, which ended up being the fine that I did get from the judge. It was $7,000 and 7 days in jail.
We said we were going to keep this clean, and that GoFundMe thing just kind of goes back to a podcast I just did, and it should have had a different title. But anyway, I'm sorry.
That's funny.
Anyway.
I did say GoFundMe.
Okay, yes.
Okay. So, anyway, what's funny about Dan Patrick, though, is he put $7,000 in the GoFundMe, and he even offered to do house arrest for my days in jail. But if you know
Right.
anything about contempt of court, there is no bail for that. You cannot get out for that.
Correct.
The judge is the only one.
He's the signature behind it all.
Exactly.
Correct.
But Dan Patrick just 2 weeks ago on TV during that Trump rally just said Texas never closed down. And I'm like, I could show you that $7,000 you put in my GoFundMe when we never closed down. What are you people doing?
And the idea that shutting down $1 trillion economy for a pandemic, which we already know from history, from the Spanish flu, when we didn't have the technology that we have now, we survived that back in the early 1900s. And now we have economists that are way smarter than myself come out and say that the shutdown only had like a 0.02% effect on the actual pandemic itself. So we really accomplished a lot and violated a bunch of people's civil rights in the process. And that's the point. I think that kudos to you for standing up. You know, that's a big deal. And now that you've taken it even further by, putting your name in the hat to go south, make a difference for those.
I'm either mad or crazy or both.
From somebody that's been in a campaign, I'm going to vote for the latter of the two, but okay.
They just poked the wrong bear. When the governor's office tried to contact me, they acted like I was just, unintelligent and would just bow down to them when they call me. And, hair salons, cosmetology students know that their sanitation training is above most other training. I mean, doctors, dentists, and then, cosmetologists. And for them to treat us like we don't know how to handle communicable diseases, that shows their ignorance.
So wasn't one of your customers, if I remember correctly, did Ted Cruz come to your salon to get a haircut?
After I got out of jail, he did come and visit. And I don't know if everybody knows, I'm not a hairstylist. So everybody thinks that I cut Ted Cruz's hair. That would be illegal according to the government bureaucracy. Right. But yeah, he did come to the salon and stand with us and say, I stand with Shelley on this.
How does a government in a state get so divided amongst itself that they can't even have a general consensus? And I think that really just kind of goes into my next point of, we being Democrats and Republicans. At some point, when are we just all going to become Americans?
That's right.
And fight for the same cause? We've gotten so caught up in this division that we have lost sight of. This is the only country that I know of in the world that will give you all of these rights and then give you a system to fight those rights.
Well, when the government picks winners and losers, essential, non-essential, it starts to make people fight with each other.
Yes.
and starts to make someone look better than someone else or whatever. So the government did that on purpose. They wanted to separate us. It was their plan from the beginning. It's the way they control us. If there is chaos amongst us, then the government has more control because people feel they need them.
Well, as Barack Obama was stated, never let a good crisis go to waste, and that seems to be the Democratic motto when it comes to that is chaos and confusion, and which leads to division, which is what they ultimately want. Anyway, we could go on forever about that, but one of the things that I really want to dive into here, and the reason these two folks are here is, and I'll just put it out there, your opponent came to this community a couple of months back, which was really ironic because I had reached out to him about a civil suit that was going on here involving Delta County and the level of incompetency that was taking place and all of this stuff, nonsense that was going on. And I got crickets. And I got a sound bite in there, but I'm not going to do it.
Oh, please do it.
Hang on.
Please.
Cricket.
That is the first time I've ever used that. So
See?
anyway.
You're welcome, everybody.
Thank you. But so then I'm sitting over here at my office one day, and Facebook popped up, and hey, everybody, I'm going to be at Tejano's. You're going to stop by and buy lunch for you. And I just put on there, because I'm a very blunt person. I'm very direct. Why would you come now when I needed you then? You didn't bother to talk to me. Why the hell would I want to come have lunch with you? And all of a sudden I get this, here's my cell phone number. Oh, my gosh. Okay, thanks. So I called him, and I talked to him all the way from Sherman till he got here. And he says, can we talk after lunch? Yes, that'd be great. After lunch, he comes to my office. We spend 2 hours in my office, okay? And I'm not bashing the guy. These are facts. And I laid it out, because at the end of the day, these two people will tell you all I care about is Delta County and Cooper. I grew up here. This is home. I've came back. I have invested in this community more than I care to divulge on this podcast, okay? And I will continue to do so until the good Lord says it's time to go. But I got so angry with the fact that this guy swoops into town, can't talk to me prior, wants to talk to me for a vote. But when I reach out to your office and say, hey, we want to do a podcast, because like I said, I'm undecided. I don't know. I'm still doing my research. When I reached out to your camp, I got a response. And here you sit 1 day later, by the way. Thank you for that. So how do we know as citizens of Delta County, because I'm going to be really frank with you, I don't give a damn about the other counties. No offense to them. They're all great people. But we have to take care of our own house. Like my mom always said, if you don't sweep your own porch first, you're going to track it in. So take care of your own house first. And that's been my motto here. So how do we know that if you're elected, that you're going to remember us?
So, first of all, my business runs itself, the salon. They rent the space there.
Right.
I don't have to go there to operate it. I only go there once every 8 weeks to get my own hair done, because I give my own business, give my hair business there. So I don't have a job, a 9 to 5 or anything like that, besides what I need to do to learn from you guys, as far as whatever I need to do for you in office. Secondly, I don't see this position as a power position, and I think that's where we get confused. There are the people that work for us in our legislature, they are public servants. So right now we sit here, but if I were to
say it again, they lose that
public servants,
that term gets lost.
But the way that I visualize this, and which I think is different than most quote unquote politicians, we're all equal here. But if I were to win, I am submissive to you because I work directly for you. Now you are my boss. I don't see it as, oh, look at all this power that I have. And I just, being raised by a Marine, 26 years, I don't lie. I don't have lying in me. And I knock doors because I don't want to poll, because I want to look you in the face and know what you need. And so you can tell that I'm a totally different person,
right,
just by looking at me and talking to me. And I don't think that I'm better than you. And I'm not going to office because I want to. I really don't want to, but I have to.
Yes.
I must, because God gave me this platform and said, you must go do this.
Well, and I can certainly relate to that, because the sheriff's race was something that was near and dear. I just felt like the good Lord put that on my heart, and didn't need it by any stretch of the imagination. And I don't say that to be arrogant or boisterous or anything like that, because a lot of people, they misconstrued arrogance for confidence and vice versa. So I am a very confident person, and Babe Ruth says it's not bragging if you can back it up. So I felt the same way, and I understand that mentality completely. So, my thing is, like I said, I just got to make sure from my vantage point and from where I sit and the people that I surround myself with, that Delta County doesn't get forgot, because we're the 5th smallest county in the state, but we're the poorest county in the state. So I say that to segue into some things that this city needs, and any ideas you might have and that could help this city. One of the things is unfunded mandates for the city. You know, these streets that we have here, as you come in, you probably drove on the nicest ones that we have. But if you turned off of those streets, you aren't going to like it. And I say that with the mayor and a council person sitting here, and they're both shaking their head, yes, in agreement.
We say it too.
Yes.
We have streets in this city that are gravel only because, and the mayor and the council person here can tell you, councilwoman, I'm sorry, can tell you the cost that it's enormous. And then our forefathers that came before us in poor planning put the plumbing and stuff for the city, the water lines right down the middle of the street. So in order to fix a street, you're going to have to move a lot of stuff. And I say that because this all adds up. Every time you say that dollar, the cash register is ringing. So how do you foresee your position being able to help a community like Cooper fix those issues?
Well, first of all, I have to learn how to say it correctly. Cooper?
Cooper.
Cooper.
Cuper.
Yeah. No, I was speaking to a lady at the forum, and she said, it's just like a chicken coop. And
Yeah.
I'm like, well, to me, that's a chicken coop. So she's like, no, please don't say that. So
Well,
I'm a quick learner, so I want everybody to know. I may have said Cooper in the past, but I am totally trying to learn how to say it correctly.
Well, that's how growing up here, if you were an outsider and you said the city's name, we could tell right quick if you were from here or not.
That's
'Cause
right.
if you can't say Cooper right,
I still can't say it right.
Right. I don't want to pretend I've been here the whole way, but I also don't want to offend you by continuing to say it wrong.
It's no
Cooper.
offense. It's just it's a local thing.
I think it's pride. I like it. It's
is.
cool.
It is.
I love it.
It is.
It's like a trademark.
Well, here's the thing, and when I when I come, and this has to do with kind of the last question too. When I come to this town, this city, and speak to individuals that are in charge, I'm not coming to speak to you because I'm looking for an endorsement. I'm coming to speak to individuals, and I've spoken a lot with Amanda, and we just met today, the mayor and I, but I sat down and with the sheriff for an hour and a half, not once asking for an endorsement. That wasn't my goal. My goal was to ask her what she needed, what her problems were, what were the biggest things. And you have a lot of people, you have a jail problem. You are paying people, you are paying to, during COVID, house people in other facilities. It's very expensive. There's probably a mental health issue too, where you are housing people in the jail system that should not be there, that might need some mental health care. But in communities like this, the rural communities, you don't have the funding for that. Dallas gets all of that. I just spoke to someone that works for Dallas, and they got $5.5 billion for their mental health facility that they already have. So if you could just scrape off a little piece of that and had someone advocate for those funds for you, then your money, your funds would not be going to other counties. They could be going to your roads and your infrastructure, your water, all of those things. But right now, you don't have a choice because there's people that you have to contain in cells that are maybe an endangerment to themselves or someone else. But if they had the proper mental care, they would not be treated like criminals. So there's like several things that you can do to offset the cost there to be able to put it back in the infrastructure of the city and the community.
Well, and speaking of the jail, which is, like I said, police work is a passion of mine. And one of the things I run on it when I run for sheriff was the fact that jail is the biggest expense this county faces. It's $550-something thousand, and it's probably went up since then. I haven't seen the recent budget. That averages out at 20 spots in there. That averages out to about $75 a person per day, whether they're in there or not, just to turn the lights on. I talked to our neighboring county over here, and they said they would take those people for $35 a day, which would have put about $350,000 conservatively back into the county's pocket. And, everybody looked at me like I had egg on my face. How dare you? Those people need jobs. Well, do you know if those people left there and went over there and went to work, they'd make more money and have benefits?
Mm-hmm.
But I was the bad guy because
have to think about have to think about things. We have to pull feelings out.
Yes.
Pull feelings out. We can't
numbers.
worry about who we're going to offend because that's the way people make decisions now. As long as you're not physically or emotionally hurting someone, obviously.
Correct.
But you just need to get into the numbers like a small business person and say, what is the best deal for the county, and make those decisions. As far as the jail is concerned, as a state, a state rep, it's hard. I can't come into. I don't want to come into someone's small community and tell them how to run things.
But you are our voice.
I am the voice in the state, but there's not much that I can do as far as what your budget and your planning for your community, if that makes sense. The people have to vote that in.
Well, and I think some of the issues that you and I had briefly touched on, which I don't know anything about, so I'm going to kind of let you and you kind of take over at this point. I know there were some things about some grants, that's out there, 75, 25. Cooper can't even afford the 25 portion of it. I mean, I know I've seen the numbers, and he and I have talked, and she and I have talked. I understand it. I own multiple businesses here. I've done it for many, many years. I've built 4 multi-million-dollar companies. When it comes to numbers, I get it. And if there's not enough to go around, you've either got to figure out another way to do it, or you just don't get to do it. Mm-hmm. And so with that, I know there are some things that he wanted to say, and I know there's some things she wants to say. So I'm not going to hog the whole time. So you guys, please chime in and ask.
Well, Shelley, it is the first time I've got to meet you, and as we spoke before we got here on air, we do have candidates that come through, and obviously they're looking to gain support. That's what that whole thing is about. And then they ask the question, Mayor, what do you need? And I'm a local boy doing this for the same reasons you. God led me to do this. I don't know why. I still ask him sometimes, but that's where we're at. And so I expressed the ongoing concerns and needs here, and then of course we go down to Austin, and it's the hot button items, and it's the thing that either the media or a certain group has grabbed a hold of and just made a big stink out of, and that's where the focus goes. And some of them are really important things. The border control, which I want a secure border, but guess what? That's not the only thing that's going on. And the infrastructure, and I'll tell you, in our town, as the mayor, because it is a small town and it's a strong mayor position, so there's no city manager. You're the guy whose head's out there. And in 1977, the Chamber of Commerce did a door-to-door poll in Cooper. I'm asking what were the biggest problems, and it was a myriad of things. So the myriad of issues that they had, and the number one concern in 1977 was the streets.
And then you look back today.
Well,
and our streets are still a problem. And
Nothing's
here's the problem.
changed.
Here's the problem is some people want to say, well, that was Scotty's fault or that was Richard's fault, and talking about the previous mayors. And it was not at all. They had no funds. They had their hands tied and were trying to scrape by to try to make things happen. So we talked about unfunded mandates. And the most recent one that we're dealing with right now is through TCEQ.
Yes. You're not the only one. I've spoken to a lot of people where they demand that things get done, but they don't want to help you with the funding to do it. So where does that come from?
And not even so much on our day-to-day stuff. We get that, and we want to keep that at top notch operations. I get that. But from the storm from last year, all the small communities, we had no backup generators to run our water plant got shut off by ERCOT, and we were off for days without water. So our whole system goes dry, which is not just our city, but also we supply our county. So our county goes dry while we're sitting here, not because electrical lines went down, not because we didn't maintain something, because you turned
rolling
us off.
blackouts on a public utility.
But that one stayed off for days.
So what does it cost for a generator on something like that to put that in place to where that doesn't happen again?
We've just reached out and got quotes through some FEMA money. So that's how the state says that they're going to fund this, is through FEMA.
But my question is, why did they feel it was appropriate to turn that off? Because we lived in Pilot Point during that time, and our power stayed on our house the whole time because we lived on a road next to like a power grid. And so it wasn't going off. Everybody around us was off. So why did they feel like, necessity-wise, they were able to keep some of the stuff on. So they want to turn off an entire county. You need someone fighting for you.
Yeah, they did, and now so the mandate comes in to get the generators, Kevin, that you asked, $750,000 for us to be able to get the generators for our water and sewer plant.
Let's put that in perspective for a minute. I don't mean to interrupt you. What is the city's annual budget for a year?
About 1.5.
So
under,
you're
under $2 million.
okay. So you're talking basically half of the city's budget for 1 year to put this generator in place.
More than half.
Yeah.
Which is just emergency use.
Yeah,
you would
yeah.
think.
Probably won't be used
And
again
what was
unless
it,
the power gets shut
storm of
off.
100 years?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly. But now TCQ said not only do I have to have a plan in place by March, we have to implement it by June. And the FEMA money is a 75-25, as Kevin spoke to earlier, and we don't have the 25% to match that. But I'm being told I've got to do that. And the other mandates, like you spoke to, Shelley, are at our water and sewer treatment plants. And so we have to, all of our grants in the past have gone to those two areas. Another reason why the streets are in the condition they are. There's nothing that says
just
keep
trying
your
to keep up
streets in
with their
good shape.
mandates.
They don't fund anything to say, hey, let's keep your streets in good shape. Also, we're gonna make sure that your water and sewer, which are critical, they have to be. But then everything else is left up to us. And so then we have been in the spot. So infrastructure in small towns is critical. When you drive in front of Tejano's here, you're going to see a hole on a state highway that
Better hang on.
ridiculous. And we've been talking since 2017, and it's a $2.5 million project. TxDOT's just now getting us back on the I can't think of the name. They had us not marked as
Under
I see smoke.
we're not rich. Underprivileged. No, not underprivileged.
exactly.
Is
So
that
we didn't
low socioeconomic
we
or
didn't
something?
qualify for any of their matching or anything else, but the city of Paris does.
And they have
they're-
infrastructure and
they're-
huge.
yeah, exactly. So small towns are, and it's not just Cooper. I guarantee you, it's Wolf City, it's Honey Grove, it's Ladonia, it's all these other small towns. They have things that are being thrown at them, things they have to deal with, a budget, property taxes that people already feel are too high, that are ours have been raised because the way we fund our schools is through private school taxes and then property taxes.
And
And
our
if our
school
property
taxes are through
taxes
the roof.
aren't at the right level, then the state comes in and says, "Oh, we're going to stop funding your school."
Right.
So we've
It's
got all
an
these
endless
things.
bureaucracy of tape that costs more and more money. And what's disgusting is to see how you guys are drowning, but to look at the spending that's going on at the state level. We're spending billions and billions and billions of dollars on illegal immigrants, on, the border being wide open, corporate welfare for like the big companies that come in, we end up paying for that. And so when they spend that money at the state level and don't help with our school funding, and it all comes from the taxpayers, that's when there's a problem. So you can't have poor roads, high taxes, nowhere to go, all of those things with no, and it's kind of like COVID, why I decided to open up and go against the grain, because they gave us no solutions. I did talk to the Bells mayor, and they just received a water grant, and they were having the same problems as you. And what I would like to do as a representative is go talk to all of the small communities throughout the entire district and see, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Let's see what worked with them. And it was a huge process. They said it was crazy. Now they're having a problem. They got the grant, but they're having a problem getting the funding. I'll cause a stink and get the funding. You know what I mean? It's like people don't like to be backed into a corner.
Well, and I think part of the problem is all of these representatives go to Austin, and I got the spiel because I'm on the executive committee for the Republican Club, which is a precinct chair. So we get the calls from the representatives a lot of the time. We want your vote. We want your endorsement, which of course didn't go well, so now I've heard nothing. But when you are sending these people and you hear nothing from them from the day they are elected. You knocked my door and that was it. That was the last time I ever saw you. Oh, and then when we did for Congressman Fallon, we had to vote him into office. I saw him then, which was ironic. But they go down there and they are advocating for all of the cities, the big cities like the Shermans and the Dallas and even Austin itself, And they don't even think about what they're mandating for these tiny communities. And there's nobody there that says, hey, stop. What about our ranchers? What about, the people that are supplying the city with the water?
Well, if you look at this district as a whole, I believe it's Grayson County, Delta County,
Fannin, Franklin.
yeah, the bulk of the votes come out of Grayson County. I don't know that you'll get as many votes out of the rest of the counties combined as you will that one county. So I know the reason why we get left behind, but I have a economics 101 question that I want to ask you, and it kind of ties all this in together. So in some of my research nerd days, I discovered that approximately 50% of the workforce in America is paid by cash. There's no tax, okay? And I know this eliminate property tax thing has caught a lot of momentum as of late. So basically, as it stands right now, we have 50% of the population supporting 100% of the problems. What if, let's just say, you had the magic wand, okay, and you're the all omnipotent one day? What if you could do away with that property tax and make that way the seniors and everybody can keep their homes that they're renting from the government today, and you made it a consumption tax, and you caught everybody at the counter, everybody, so you got 100% of the population supporting 100% of the problems. What's wrong with that idea?
There's nothing. That's the plan. That's exactly my plan.
And we hadn't spoke before this, so there's
no, we haven't spoken before this, but it's exactly the plan. It's not something like a light switch. It's definitely going to have to. But before you just create a consumption tax, obviously we never want an income tax, but before you can just create a consumption tax, the first thing that you have to do is go after the ridiculous, dumb, stupid spending that's happening in Austin.
Well, yes.
You have to go red markers through that whole thing over years and years and years and years and get people off. Honestly, the government teat, get them off. And then that money needs to start going into our public schools to pay for that. I mean, there's plenty of money from our gas taxes, from our consumption taxes, from all these other taxes that you get taxed on taxes that you taxed. It's ridiculous.
Have you ever followed a dollar from the day you receive it until the day it leaves your pocket? If you ever just have seen that analogy, it'll make you sick to your stomach. And the other thing I know this is crazy, but I have 25 employees next door. I can tell you right now, if I gave all of them the opportunity to vote for a raise, I'm sure it would be a unanimous vote. That's another problem I have. Yes. If you, as you stated earlier, as a public servant, if you want a raise, you should have to ask, who do you normally ask? The boss. They don't do that.
You're just asking each other.
They're asking each other, hey, do you think you deserve a raise? Well, yeah, shoot, yeah, Mm-hmm. So it all boils down to basic economics, and we have lost sight of that. This is what happens when you get a room full of lawyers, in my opinion, and everybody tries to be the smartest guy in the room. And if you ever think you're that person, you're in the wrong damn room.
That's right. I only want to surround myself with people that I hope are way smarter than me, because I obviously don't know everything. I'm a business owner. I was a school teacher. I actually speak 2 languages, but that does not help me when I'm trying to figure out something that has nothing to do with any of my life experiences. I must surround myself with people that not only know about it, or have been about it.
Right.
Those are the people I want to talk to.
Right.
Let me make a comment on the property tax and consumption tax. The biggest concern that I have is how it's going to affect the lower income individuals who are already struggling to make it. And I'm talking about my employees who we struggle. They were making $7.25 an hour 5 years ago when I came here. We finally have got them to 12, which doesn't even compete with what the market is calling for, and so we put it into a consumption tax, and then it totally hits them. So, and these are the guys that already can't afford a house, having to pay rent, those types of things. So what impact does that have?
Well, I think if I own a house, if I'm the house owner and I'm leasing it out, I can lower the rent for that house if I'm not paying ridiculous dumb amounts of property tax.
I think the rent's going to be based on what the market, but people don't do that because
I disagree with you, because I own rental property here in town, and I can tell you right now, I am behind the curve, because if based on the property tax that's in here right now, I've got a duplex right down here on the edge of town, and based on the property tax and everything else, that duplex should be renting for $1,200 a month each side. Mm-hmm. And you know what I charge? 800.
And it has to do with if it's a free market, if there's several rent houses here or several people, if I rent mine out for $800 a month, no one's going to the $1,200 a month. You've got to
Exactly.
compete with each other. So if you lower the property taxes, it makes sense for me to be able to lower my rent because I'm not paying that money.
And the beauty of the consumption tax is this: if you don't have it, you don't spend it. The problem with the property tax is it don't matter if you got it or not. You got to spend it,
Or you lose your
or you're going to
whole
lose
investment.
it. And that's
the whole idea of it is today I might not be able to eat a steak. I might be eating tuna out of a can, but I'm going to go sleep in my bed. And that's what the big difference is. Taxes should not be tied to your home, to a roof. You're still going to pay the same amount of taxes. You're still going to pay them, but you're going to pay them as you have the money to spend it.
And I think the thing that people miss, the thing that people miss is you're instead of, like I had stated earlier, it's just the basic concept of 50% of the people right now are supporting 100% of the problem. If you can get 100% of the people involved, that is spread out over the other half of the population, and therefore, I think the money that you're looking at, that the consumption tax would be very minimal because it's going to be spread out over a large populace of people.
This makes drug dealers pay taxes because they go buy that big expensive car paying taxes on it. This
Exactly.
makes, instead of paying whatever percentage tax, they're paying 2% higher. There they go, paying taxes when this makes illegals pay taxes.
Exactly. There's so many scenarios like that, and I get what you're saying. Is it going to affect the lower income people? To a degree, yes. What is that degree? I believe it's going to be a finite degree because these are the people I know. I grew up poor. We did exactly what we could do when we could do it, and when we couldn't do it, we found another way.
And right now with Biden in there, look at the crazy inflation with everything. We're not all eating steak every day because we would all be poor if we did that. We're buying what we can afford and what we can eat at this time, but I still go and sleep in my house.
But you can get a free crack pipe.
You can get a free. You can definitely get a free crack pipe.
And a vending machine with needles.
And they'll
everything.
test your drugs and make sure there's no fentanyl in it. But they won't make fentanyl illegal.
Yeah, that's a whole nother podcast that's coming. So anyway, yeah. But anyway, to that, so what's your response to that? To that,
To the consumption tax
to the
idea.
consumption tax idea. I see your brain. I see it. I see the wheels turning.
Yeah. I'm going to do a little more thought process in it. I just, we're going to pay it one way or the other.
Yes.
We're going to pay it one way or the other, and I'd like to think that people would do the right thing if property taxes went down. I don't.
No, I'm not talking about going down. I'm talking about going away completely.
Yeah, I'd like to think that people.
It's scary as someone that needs those funds to make the county work and all of that stuff. But the first taxes that I would go first, the first ones that need to go would not be the county ones that you're getting paid. It would be the ones that are going to the schools that the state should be paying for because we pay enough taxes. We pay enough.
They literally mandate everything. They mandate everything that goes on in that school. Mm-hmm. So if you're
right
going to
now
mandate
we
it,
have people
you should
that
pay for it.
don't. Most people don't have kids in that school.
I don't.
No.
If you're over a certain age, or you choose to homeschool or whatever you want to do, and you're still paying for an education, that also gives people, if you're not paying property taxes, that gives them the income to do a great education for their child if they decided to do it at home. There's lots of things that you can do with your money that you earned instead of giving it to the government.
Well, there's only two people, to my knowledge, that are exempt from property taxes: 100% disabled vet and the widow of a vet killed in service. That's it. And why is that?
And they have to apply for that too.
Yes,
they don't make it easy.
They have to apply for that.
Well, don't they defer at a certain age though?
No,
they
But if
they
you
freeze
defer,
Yeah.
if you defer your property taxes because you hit 65, when you die,
Yeah, somebody's got to pay.
Somebody's
it.
it
going
all,
up.
including all of the back stuff. So that means you've left nothing for your children. It just
There's so
it's
many.
not right.
There's so many elderly people, and Delta County is a prime example of that. And because of the fact that Delta County is twice the national average of people over the age of 65 years old. So when I bring this subject up, I'm only 55 years old. Okay, so I bring this up because I see it's affecting a lot of people here locally. It's affecting a lot of people across the nation. And just like you said, the drug dealers that are spending all this lavish money buying these cars and this jewelry at the point of sale, get what you can, divide it out is basically what you're doing. And I mean, if you have 100 people standing there with their hands out and you only have 50 people that's contributing to the pot, eventually these 50 people are just going to stop doing whatever it is they're doing to have to contribute that money. But if you have all 100 people contributing, you'll have everybody pulling in the same direction.
Well, and one of the things, when I was first starting to campaign 5, 6 years ago, I don't even know anymore, but it was a lot of years ago. One of the things that I did was I went into the city apartments, the housing authority apartments, and I was talking to people there. You would be surprised how many people live in the government housing and own property in the city.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why don't you live in the house you own? Well, because I can't afford to upkeep it. So next thing you know, these houses are the ones that aren't paying the taxes. They don't have the money to pay the taxes. They can't fix it. So the city's now at a loss, not only on property taxes, but you're also demolishing the house. So
Well,
this person who bought a house and paid
Yeah.
how many years?
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and
it's-
the other issue that we have here, Shelley, is being the 5th smallest county in the state, being ranked as the poorest income county in the state. I don't know how many years ago that was. I don't know if it's changed yet or not. But anyway, I know
we're still in the top 5.
we're still very low on that level. We have 3 sets of government housing here in Delta County, in Cooper, in the city limits of Cooper. So that is a large populace of people that are not paying property taxes at all. And I get it. I'm not beating up on the people that can't do whatever. There is a need for that. How does that get decided, and how does it get put on a community like Cooper that, just to be blunt, can't hardly take care of itself? Now we've got these people that are living in government housing, socioeconomically challenged, because that's why they're in those houses.
I think there's I don't know. I'm not going to try to pretend I know how they got here, because I do not know. But I do know with our system, the way our government works is we do a lot of handouts. And I'm talking about not just in this county. I'm talking about
Right.
all over. We do a lot of handouts without any type of incentive to get out of the situation that you're in. And so I think that if there was some sort of incentive, that most people can work, that should be, most should, and they don't. And we don't offer any sort of incentive program or any sort of, if you don't get out and work, you don't get this anymore type of atmosphere. And I think that's what creates the problem. If I have a teenager that I continue to give money to, they'll and say you can do whatever you want, they're never leaving my house.
So we can put an expiration date on these benefits at some point.
Possibly, and I don't know the specific situation in Delta County, so I'm not going to pretend like I know everything about the residents here and any of that. But I'm speaking in a general idea of what happens. I know for sure in Texas, my opponent just voted to give Medicaid benefits to pregnant women for an entire year. And even if they miscarry and don't have the baby, they can still apply for the benefits for an entire year. And I mean, man, I was a single mom for a long time and have never received benefits. And it's not that receiving benefits is bad, but that should be something that's short term. If you're an able-bodied person, you should be able to get out and earn your way. And not only that, help other people get on their feet. I saw an article today where they're like, we can't find anybody to help anybody to help with the canned food drive. Well, help the people that are taking the canned food, get their ass behind there. Sorry, I cussed.
No, it's a
But
great
I mean,
point.
it's so funny. They're coming with a handout, and you say, "Can you come over here and help us hand out food before you take benefits?" I mean, it's a shocking idea.
I think the irony of all ironies is if you go to Yellowstone National Park where the animals roam free, there are signs everywhere, don't feed the animals, because they become dependent upon the food of the human beings, but yet we can't practice what we preach.
That's right. And I don't mind giving a hand up. I have no
Absolutely.
problem.
Yes.
We've helped several people
Yes.
along the way in the last 2 years. And our only thing to them was, you must pay it forward.
Yes.
And you must want to go out and make this world a better place. That's all we care about with giving you money. And they all have. It's been great. But there were businesses that wanted to have some of the GoFundMe money that we got when I was thrown in jail. And, we gave away probably $250,000.
Wow.
We gave away to people, helping them out over the time. And there was a business that had a guy that right before COVID, he decided, like he was homeless, but he was going to live in his car and sleep there and go to barber school every single day, right? And try to earn his way back, get his way back. And then COVID hit. And so we found out about this through some other people. We paid for his barber scholarship. We paid for an apartment for him to start with. And the only thing was, you must pay it forward. This is not a continual thing. He now teaches there and helps other people get off the street and on. That's what needs to happen. Not the government helping us. That's other people, churches, whatever, helping. But there were also other businesses that said, well, give us money. And I'm like, well, are you going to open against the shutdown? Are you going to create some sort of no, we just want money. And I'm like, no, we're not giving you money. And then we're racist because we didn't give somebody money. So it's a never ending cycle. And if we continue to let it happen, it's going to continue to happen, because if I could sit at home and do nothing and make money and somebody take care of me, I guess I would do that too.
I think the best explanation I've heard, you're incentivizing laziness.
Oh yeah.
And that's really the best
Well, and a lot of people, elected officials included, forget that is not our place. Our place is not to raise your children. Our place is not to provide you food. As a government entity, we're supposed to be focused on the streets, the plumbing, all of the necessities of life, and protecting the constitutional rights.
Well,
Protecting them. We don't issue them. We don't give you your rights. That is not our job. You have those rights. Our responsibilities as your elected representatives are to be that stop point. That point where we say, no, I don't know what this dude is doing, but that's not happening where I am. And we did that when they tried to shut churches down. We had 2 ordinances in front of us. One, we're going to abide and shut down the churches. One, we're not. No, I don't go to church. I do not have a church family, but I'll be damned if I'm going to take your First Amendment right from you, or your Second Amendment right, which is something that I still fight for constantly. But
Well, and I know Darren being a youth minister, pastor here with the church, I know that was a big deal, when that happened with you guys. But y'all, you guys as a church family, y'all agreed to shut down for the safety of the parishioners yourself. Is that?
that's how it should be.
We shut down for a few weeks when it was really, the numbers had gotten up and we had concern, and that was a decision through our elders group.
Yeah.
We got together and prayed about it and then when we did come back together, we provided all the things that people might want to be comfortable, but made nothing mandatory.
I watched it online for I don't know how long.
Yeah, we got really good at being online, and we had some fun with that too.
Yeah.
It got us into another realm that we really weren't big in.
And that we run my precinct. When we run the election is in Mayor's Church, so we get to visit with Pastor.
Johnny.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, Johnny. I always forget his name, and I don't know why, but he is an amazing person to talk to.
Super great guy.
The story and the history and stuff makes the time go by a lot faster. We're not.
He's a super nice guy. But anyway, I know the one last thing that I really want to discuss, and I don't know if it's even in your purview, is the time zone issue. This drives me absolutely insane.
I hate daylight savings time.
Switch it forward, spring forward, and leave it the hell alone.
Yeah.
I have pushed for this. I can't even tell you how many years I have pushed for this.
Can
And
Delta County do that by itself?
the state
It would throw everybody off.
the reason, I had actually had a conversation with Bob Hall about that. And
I love Bob
He's
Hall.
amazing.
But his response to me was a little bit, it caught me off guard, because it was, if the other house puts it together, then yes, we'll look at it. Well, what do you do? I mean,
Well, I think I'm not speaking for, Bob Hall, because
and I'm not
Bob Hall can
bashing
speak.
Bob Hall.
Oh, no,
like
I
him.
love him. Probably it's the same thing. It's like there's a Republican Party platform. The ones that are doing the right thing, which Bob Hall is,
Yes.
he takes that Republican Party platform and he hammers it, the whole. And so when you add in something else to it, it loses the focus of those 8 things
Right.
what the priorities are. that's possibly what he's thinking.
He's also military, so chain of command and the way
I
things
get- yes.
function.
I don't know.
Otherwise, you're going kind of in reverse
It's-
with things.
Somebody has to step out in front of it and say,
So
okay.
I went to school online for my college, and it was out of Arizona.
Yes.
So I had to abide by theirs, but ours was changing.
Yes.
So trying to figure out the time zones, even on our Zoom calls, was like,
Yeah, because Arizona and Hawaii, I believe, are the two that don't change. And so it's like, and I know Texas is in actually two different time zones, but I know collectively as a state, we could say, okay, we're going to be in this time zone, and that's it. It could be done so simple, and it was the
We don't need Central Time. We need just Texas time.
exactly.
hey,
But
we might as well.
but the reasoning for the time zone is so archaic now.
Yeah.
Why we haven't fixed it is just baffled. Mine just
Because
baffles
that's
me.
how we always do things.
Well,
I can't believe she just said that. She knows that drives me crazy.
well, it's why there's Democrats in
it's-
committee chair
the way it's always been
positions.
done.
That's the,
Yeah.
they said it's the way we do things. I'm like, well, it's time to shake things
Change
up.
it a little bit. Yes, ma'am.
What else did you have, Brother Darren?
My goal is just what Kevin said before. What's going to affect Cooper? I'm doing this. I had a job. I wasn't looking for a job. I had a job. This was a calling. I want my town to be better, and I want everybody that can help us do that. And anybody, I've said we've asked every politician that's come through. Or I talked about the things with TxDOT. Here's the deal: is it's going to take all of us together to get anywhere and get anything fixed. And I think we got to be able to keep the craziness on both sides out and
Yeah.
say, what are we going to do
People.
to because at the end of the day, these people don't care about that. They don't care about that.
No.
They care about the streets in our town. They care about
You might freak them out if you fix the streets.
Well, I tell you, and what we did is we
Wait
turned
a
some-
second.
we turned some to gravel, and it was, but we had to because the foundation was gone, so we had to start over, and that's another podcast we're going to talk about.
Pandemonium.
Is
Yes.
streets, because it is such a hot topic. I don't like them. I can tell you right now, I've done zero work on any street around my house since I've been here because I know better. We're going out everywhere that we can and trying to, but we're limited. We have $100,000 a year on street material.
That's not.
And
Yeah, that's
when I told
nothing compared
TxDOT,
to.
no, they just laughed. So,
Well, I would love to work on some grants with you and talk to
grants
some of
we
these
have
other.
again, those aren't the end all. They don't. We have to pay engineers. We have to pay administrators. We have to, and then because of the standards that they make us go by, we're about to get a street grant, and it's going to cover about 8 city blocks at the tune of $325,000.
Well, you're definitely not the first small city or the small town area to go through this. So what we need to do is do some research and see what the other ones did and how we can get up.
I tell you what it is. Take that ridiculous spending that you talked about and put it into infrastructure, not grants,
Well, and
not things that I have to match or anything else. Come in and say, hey, everybody, you're going to get equal, divvy something out that allows us to get a plan together so that we can even.
Or if we say, here, we're giving you this amount of money based on your population, you're getting this amount of money or how long it's been since you've done your whatever, and you must prove to us that it's spent on roads or whatever.
We'd love to
Well,
do that.
see, and here's my thing is everybody is like, well, then the city's taking a handout from the state and all, but
It's your money. You paid it. It's your
exactly.
money.
And that's even when we got into the arguments with like the county. The city is paying county taxes as well. Now the county doesn't pay city taxes, so it's not.
Here's
the
what's great. If
downswing,
we
but
do
the
go to that
upswing-
consumption tax, drug dealers will pay for your roads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the actual elephant
Can they
in
pay
the
sales tax?
in the actual elephant in the county that we haven't even touched on yet is our courthouse over here is falling apart, literally as we speak.
It is a health.
We have ladies
violation.
in there because it's mostly staffed by ladies. I think there's one man in there, the county judge, but it's full of asbestos. It was built in 1940
Mold.
something, and it's going to cause. They've had multiple people come through and look at it, experts, and they've all deemed that it is not repairable. And it just had someone tell me yesterday that there's a good possibility that they can't just tear it down because it was used as a courthouse in the state of Texas, which if that's a rule, that's a stupid rule. it needs to be tore down, and we need a new courthouse here in a bad way. The average cost, I think, is $9 to $11 million. They don't have that money. There's no way. So what do? If they reach out to the historical society, what is it, Honey Grove? You said got $8 million, but
it's not historical though. It has not been deemed historical, so the historical society.
But it doesn't mean it won't be.
They won't give
because
us anything.
because the historical society is the one that's going to give. The way I understand it, and I actually talked to a buddy of mine that's a judge last night, and he said he thinks that is accurate. Even though that building has not been deemed historical, it will be the historical society that either gives you the permission or the denial to tear it down.
You have to give them 6 months notice before you do a demolition, even if it's not listed historical. You have to give them 6 months, and then they'll come in and determine. And then they will do some funding, but also they will determine to what level you bring it back to, and the funding doesn't match that.
So we have a neighboring.
It would be another
we have a neighboring
unfunded mandate.
We have a neighboring county that got $8 million, but it was a $20 million project,
and they're still not done.
So there, it goes right back to the every self-perpetuating. We can't ever catch up.
You're definitely not the first one, though. So what we need to do is do some research all across the nation to figure out what these towns did, what they did to recover, because you can't be the only ones in this situation ever.
You're exactly
so
right.
we just need to make an effort
And I
to
think
see what's been done.
I think one of the things that we need to really focus on here, and I personally don't feel like it has been, is economic development. I think we need to really focus on bringing business here. 80% of this county is ag exempt. There's a lot of land here. There's a lot of places for business to build. We've got this nice, beautiful highway out here that the state of Texas spent.
You got to fix your water before you bring them in, and that's when you need to make the people that are coming in fix your water system.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's all business.
It's all tied together. But if you can put that train on the tracks and then give it a shove, it'll take off.
Right.
And so anyway, with that, I'm going to let you. I don't have anything else. Do you two have anything else? I'm going to let you have the final word before we. We've been at this an hour.
I do want to say thank you for letting me come, and Shelley, to let us ask questions and hear your response. So I appreciate that.
Oh, absolutely. I want to be accessible and available all the time, and Amanda knows that I am. And
and for the record, I actually reached out to your group yesterday. We had a conversation yesterday about doing this podcast, and 24 hours, less than 24 hours, you're actually sitting here doing the podcast. So, in my professional opinion, that speaks volumes about you and your desire to do the job. And I like that. I'll be honest with you. I like that.
Thank you. I'm just, the word right now is I'm just relentless about it, and I'm relentless for the people. And when I go to Austin, I will be relentless there too. And I don't want to be something here and then go there and be something different. You're seeing what I will be there.
Perfect. Well, with that, I want to say thank you. And if nobody has anything else, call it good.
Thanks so much. It was
All right.
fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's the last thing we want to do. We don't want to scare anybody.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Straight Up with Kevin Carter. For questions or comments, contact us at straightupkevincarter@gmail.com. Until next time.